Welcome to Radicards TV on Radicards.com. I'm your host, Patrick Greeno, and today joining us is Brian Hayes, owner of LinguaSportsCards.com. He has a really great website, and he talks about 90s baseball, 90s football, and basketball. Really cool stuff. I really like it, so I'm proud to have him on the show today. Thank you, Brian, for sitting down with me. I really appreciate this.
It's my pleasure, Patrick.
Awesome. So, Brian, I ask this of all my interviews. Are you nervous or excited about this interview?
I would say a little bit of both. I'm a pretty introverted guy, actually, so it can be hard for me to, do a lot of, I guess this really isn't too formal of a setting, but it's definitely a new experience for me, so it makes me a little bit nervous. But more than anything, I would say that I'm excited. It's, I definitely am a huge fan of Radicards. I love the content and the passion that you bring to card collecting, and I would also say the professionalism of Radicards. I think it's outstanding. So it's really exciting to be here.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate that. That's really it's nice to hear that. That's admirable comments. I really appreciate that. Links to his website and Twitter account and his YouTube account are all listed below if you want to contact Brian, reach out to him, help him grow his channel. That's always good. So tell me, Brian, did you know about Radicards prior to my reaching out to you, and if so, how did you hear about Radicards?
So I actually only learned about Radicards, I would say it was the middle of last year. I found Radicards on YouTube. So as you mentioned, I'm a big fan of 1990s sports cards. Mm-hmm. And so what I was doing was I was going through YouTube looking for box breaks from the 1990s. And there are some out there, but not a whole lot. Definitely most of the box breaks that you see on YouTube are for modern stuff or contemporary stuff. So I was looking for box breaks from the 90s, and I saw some, but for the most part, it's a lot of someone opening a pack or a box and just showing cards and not really discussing them. But I ran into Radicards just by clicking through YouTube. I think I just searched for like 1990s box breaks. And I think you had a video about 1995 Sportflix baseball.
Oh, yes.
And I ran into that, and I just really liked it, how you were actually just took the time. I felt like you slowed down. It was like a recap video, but you really slowed down and actually discussed the cards a little bit more in detail. And I really appreciated that. And from that one video, I searched for more of your content on YouTube. And then after, I would say, probably for about 2 or 3 weeks, I was solely watching you on YouTube. And then I thought, oh, you've got a full site, Radicards.com. And then I made the jump over to Radicards, and I see that you are a pretty regular blogger, in addition to the videos you make. And I just fell in love with it. I just think the content is just really great. It's I think we have a lot of similar interests in the cards that we like. So I've been a huge fan ever since then.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. I'm really glad to hear that you've been able to digest the content and appreciate it and get something out of it. That makes me happy. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love blogging about sports cards and talking about them. So huge passion of mine, and it's nice to meet others that have to share that same level of passion. So, after a review of your videos and website, you seem to collect a very specific type of sports card. You have a What I Collect page on your site, and you break it down with very specific parameters. It's very interesting to read that because I've never seen anything like that. It's very new to me. Can you talk about your focus a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm definitely, I'm not a player collector, and I'm not a set builder. What I'm trying to do with my collection is to try to build a collection that represents my interests in sports in general. I'm a huge sports fan, first of all, baseball, basketball, and football. And while I do have favorite teams, I would say my genuine love of sports as a whole, that supersedes everything. And so I want a collection that has a large array of players, but still has a certain value to it. I would say, quite honestly, I wanted something that has some sort of value in terms of, do others think there's some monetary value to the collection? I'm not looking to make money or sell my collection. I feel like, especially as a new parent, I have to make smart monetary decisions. And so I'm looking for a collection that both represents my interest as a general sports fan, but still has a certain quality of cards. So because of that, what I do is I'm looking for players who are Hall of Famers or near Hall of Famers. Um, and what I mean by near Hall of Famers, I've created some statistical marks that, while somewhat arbitrary, I feel like if players in the various sports reach certain statistical marks, I feel like they've done enough in my mind to warrant inclusion into my collection. So that's a long way of saying that essentially what I'm doing is I'm looking for star players. I'm looking for star players, but then as far as the cards themselves, once again, a lot of my focus is the 1990s, and so a lot of my collection is rare or serial numbered cards from the 1990s. I feel serial numbered cards from the 1990s. I think that carries a little bit more weight than contemporary cards, where almost everything seems to be serial numbered now. I just feel it's a little bit more of a find to get a low serial numbered card or a rare card from the 1990s, and so I think the combination of star players and relative scarce cards, that combination is what really drives my collection.
That's really nice too. I'm the same way as you in that capacity. That I have outside of my Frank Thomas personal collection, I collect a variety of 90s insert baseball sets.
I actually have one card here that I'd like to show, and it's actually a Precious Metal Gems card.
Yeah, cool.
Is that okay?
Please.
This is a baseball card. It's, let's see here. Sometimes I get the year mixed up. This is 1998 Precious Metal Gems of Greg Maddux.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, and I think this is just a classic example of the cards that I like. Mm-hmm. From the 1990s. Going forward, I do hope to expand my collection into more vintage stuff. That's something that era of cards I'm still learning about. I'm more familiar with the 90s because that's the era that I grew up in.
Totally.
But once again, this kind of card, a low numbered, serial numbered card of a star player, Hall of Famer. This makes me excited. It's great finding these kind of cards. I don't feel like the cards from the 90s are better than other eras. It's just, I think that's the era that I'm most familiar with. Those are the cards that I grew up with. Mm-hmm. And so it's really that combination of like a little bit of nostalgia there that brings me back. I know the players from that era the best. As I've gotten older, I haven't had as much time to follow sports as I used to. So the players from that area, like I'm really familiar with them. It's just a great, the 90s was really like a transition period between like the vintage or the classic cards all the way up to the 90s, and now we're into so much of the stuff is like autograph cards and relic cards. The 90s was like that transition era, and I just thought the focus on creativity in so many of the sets, especially the insert sets, it just keeps me coming back for more. I really, really like that era.
Yeah, it sounds like we're peers. Like you associate myself with the Ripken 2-1-3-1 streak, the home run race of '98 with the McGuire and Sosa. The Barry Bonds came later. Kind of missed that a little bit myself, but those are the kinds of milestones and things I really got into, and the card shows at hotel ballrooms and things like that. So that's again why I'm so attached to that era myself too. So you and I share that same love for that type. Again, not any better or worse than modern. Just these are the types of places and years that we go to take us back to what it was, a different time. I notice you don't collect any hockey cards. Can you tell us why not?
Yeah. So I'm from Iowa. And in Iowa, actually pretty close to Minnesota. I'm from Northeast Iowa, okay, where hockey's bigger in Minnesota. But just where I was, hockey, where I grew up, hockey really wasn't in the consciousness of the people. That said, when I was a kid, and I was really collecting hard from like 1992 to 1995, mm-hmm, I did buy packs of like 91, 92 Pro Set hockey, Upper Deck hockey. But I really didn't know the players that well. And that was still pre-internet, and so it was just hard for me to make that connection to hockey. Between three sports already, like it's so hard to maintain quality, especially when I'm after so many players already in the three sports. If I did get into hockey, I would probably be after like rookie cards of hockey. Of the four major sports in the U.S., like hockey is the sport that I understand the least. And so I think card collecting is just another tool, another way to learn about sports. Like understand, which cards are hot in the hobby right now? Well, why is that? Well, then you learn about the players. So that's crossed my mind sometimes because I really, like I said, I really want my collection to reflect what I like in the quote unquote real world. And I like hockey. I like sports. My understanding of hockey isn't that high right now, but that it's sort of floating in the back of my mind to go after a hockey card or two. I think that'd be a nice change of pace sometime.
Yeah, I can totally understand that it's best not to bite off more than you can chew in the hobby, right? So I mean, you do 3 sports. Like I can barely just do baseball, but
Yeah.
granted, you're picking up specific, key items, key pieces. I'm really always impressed with the stuff you show off in your videos and just top shelf stuff, man. And I'm really blown away by your taste. I love it. I think it's fantastic. And I know it's not cheap. I know that. And so getting another animal in the herd, right, is going to be
Right.
maybe you have to build out more fencing, and that's going to cost more money, right, to have more space for the new animal, that being hockey. But I'm right there with you. If I was to get into hockey, I'd be just doing rookie cards. If you were to collect just one player, and I know you're not a player collector,
Yeah.
who would it be?
For basketball, I would collect Kawhi Leonard.
Really?
For the Spurs, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He's the best player for the Spurs right now.
Okay.
I love his game, offense and defense. I heard a quote about Kawhi Leonard. He's sort of a little bit of an introverted guy. The quote was, "Kawhi Leonard loves everything about greatness, nothing about fame." And I think that sums him up. He's not a flashy guy. He's not out there trying to get on, making the focus on him. But he's worked on his game. He's gotten better every year. He came into the league about 5 years ago. He wasn't like highly, like a high draft pick. The Spurs actually had to trade for him. But he's gotten better every single year. For football, I grew up a Chiefs fan, so I was always a big fan of Marcus Allen. He started with the Raiders, but later in his career, when I was really watching football, he played for the Chiefs. So Marcus Allen, I'm a big fan of. And I also like Tony Gonzalez, who was their tight end for years with the Chiefs. Now, for baseball, I would say I'm a big fan of Mookie Betts right now. I like 5-tool players. Oh, and another one, Carlos Beltran.
Oh, yeah.
He started with the Royals. I like those 5-tool type of guys. So I would say 90s Griffey.
Awesome. I love it. I had this conversation with somebody recently. King Griffey Jr.'s market value right now is approaching the esteem of where Jordan's market value was a couple of years ago. And so it's getting up to that upper echelon. And I say that because there is Donruss Crusade 1998 green with a refractor line, Griffey, on eBay right now, and it's already at $280. Number to 250, mind you. Like, that to me is just like amazing kind of marquee value. And so I'm like, geez, man, I'm collecting. I'm doing the base green set, and I'm like, I know that the Griffey and the Jeter are going to be the last ones I'm going to get because they're so expensive. I don't want a refractor line in mine, but then I would have to pay $600 for a card number to 250. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Do you keep a monthly budget for your collecting habits, or do you find other ways to supplement your spending?
Yes, just actually started having a monthly budget.
That's good. And that's good to have.
Yeah. And another thing too, though, is I will from time to time I will sell cards on eBay. Not too often. Just sometimes if I make a purchase and for whatever reason I don't like the card, maybe it's not quite to the condition that I wanted, or just for whatever reason, sometimes I will sell cards on eBay, and then I'll have that to use at my disposal later.
Are you the type of guy that will buy a parallel of a card and say it's like a gold, and then you're like really stoked on the gold number to 50, and then a year later you come across an orange or a red, and you buy that? Do you keep both parallels, or do you just want the higher, the better of the two?
So if it's from and these are once again sort of arbitrary cutoffs, but essentially if a card was made in 1999 or prior, so essentially in the 1990s, any parallel number 250 or less, I want in my collection. So, like those Crusades, it's a 3-level parallel, numbered down to 25, 100, and 250. All 3 of those levels I would want in my collection. I feel that that's something that is cool. Post 2000, it gets a little bit trickier for me to define, but essentially what I want is the two lowest level non-one-of-one parallels.
There's a specific admissions requirements to get into the master collection, and what does that look like? And you have a specific set of requirements. How do you organize your collection and keep track of it?
Everything, all the cards that are in my personal collection, I keep track in an Excel file. And so I've just got a tab for baseball, basketball, and football. And I keep track of how much I paid, when I paid, where I paid, the current value as I deem it. So I would say like every 6 months I go through my collection and I try to look at the market and say, you know, what is this value? How does the market value this card right now? I try to come to my best estimate. So I keep track of that over time. Every 6 months I go into my collection so I can see how, at least me, how I value the card, or how I deem that the market values the card, if that makes sense. So I've got that all in an Excel file, and I order things by year, set, card number, pretty standard stuff. And then in my, I keep the cards in physically, I just keep them in a monster box, one of those monster boxes that's a little bit bigger and can support graded cards. I would say about a third of my collection is PSA graded, a third is BGS graded, and about a third are raw. But I just mix them all together. They all fit in there in the same box. I've got one collection for baseball, one for basketball, one for football. So it's pretty easy to keep track of them. Once again, buying singles, it's a little bit easier actually to keep track of what you have. You know, when you're focusing a little bit more on the quality as compared to the quantity.
Prices are interesting like that because over the course of time they fluctuate. So not everything's going to be accurate based on value. So I think what you're doing is going to be definitely a step up to not just tracking what you have, but tracking how much it's worth in current value. I think it's really fantastic. I love that. I think it's so cool.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see, like, as my collection has grown, it's taken more time to sort of go through and say, you know, how much is this card worth, this card worth, this card worth. You know, I've sort of been in the hobby and then out of the hobby a couple of times during my life, but now, like, I'm all in. I just love it. I feel like I'll just be doing it forever. And so we'll see as my collection grows how much time I have and things of that nature. But for right now, it makes perfect sense. One other quick thing that I do is, so once again, I have these like statistical standards that a player has to meet before, you know, I say he's eligible to be in my collection. But what happens is, like, a lot of like prospects, like, it takes them 5 or 10 years to build up these numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I don't do is I don't wait and say, oh, like for baseball, I have to wait for Chris Bryant to, you know, meet a certain baseball reference WAR. I'll go ahead and collect his cards now because I feel like he's going to get there. But I keep track because some players are sort of borderline.
Mm-hmm.
And so I might have a card, like maybe a perfect example is Andrew McCutchen. Like, I've got some of his cards, just not too many, 2 or 3, because I feel like, you know, as his career goes, he's going to meet these thresholds that I have. But like, he had a down year last year, and maybe who knows how his career is going to go. If it's starting to look like he's not going to have that career which I anticipated, then, you know, I have a way to keep track of that in my Excel file that I maintain. And then maybe at that point, if I feel like, you know, he doesn't quite have that standard that I'm looking for, then maybe at that point, then I would sell his cards or not. But really, you know, for the most part, I tend to collect players who've met that threshold, or mega prospects, or guys who've already have track record of at least a year or two, and then I feel pretty comfortable adding them.
I think that's great. I totally can understand that. With me, I end up buying the best rookie card of guys who have flopped just so I can write about them. You know, like, I have a nice Travis Lee collection because in '97 he and Ben Grieve were like super hot, super prospects, and they just kind of floundered. But whatever. I mean, it takes me back to a time when I was younger, and so I pick up a few when I find them. And now I pick up very rare because the stuff I want I already have, so I just leave it at that. But you know, when guys are hurt, that's a good time to buy because they're cheap, and who knows what will happen. Maybe they spring back and they're superstars again. I mean, who knows? But I think it's great to be able to understand and to be curious enough to figure out who might develop into superstar power. I mean, looking back, there are a lot of us collectors that wish we would have collected Trout in 2009 and 10. You know, he wasn't.
Yeah.
You know, I wrote about this recently on a blog post that Trout wasn't highly hyped as a prospect. Everybody was looking at Bryce Harper, you know, and Steven Strasburg, and some of these other guys that came in throughout the last couple of years. You know, Jose Abreu was one of those as well.
Yeah.
Yasiel Puig was 2013. So, and then here's Trout just steadily making headlines as like an amazing hitter. And so I think that's really good for the hobby in terms of identifying who to collect, but being curious about who might perform over the course of time based on what you think is going to happen, and keeping track of some of these guys that aren't being talked about. Do you have any specific collecting goals?
I do have one, but I think it's something that's not attainable, but it just sort of, I think the journey is going to be fun. And that is, so I'm really big into 1990s, especially the inserts, but I also really like base cards for all the sports, baseball, basketball, and football. So one of my goals is to have at least 5 to 10 graded cards from each post World War II set from each of the sports. So starting in like 1948 Leaf, 1948 Bowman for baseball, all the way for each set, all the different manufacturers that have shown up. And once again, I'm only talking about officially licensed products. As much as I like the inserts, I really like base sets. I feel like you actually learn more about players a lot of times on base cards. A lot of times there's more detailed statistics. You've got more biographical information. And that's what initially brought me into collecting a long time ago. I don't know if it's as much as a goal to say from each base set I'm going to try to get 5 to 10 cards, but I would say that's more of like a cap. Like if I do for any particular set, say, okay, I've got 5 to 10 cards, and for me, once again, they're going to be of the star players, or at least what the market deems to be stars.
I think it's really cool. I never thought about it that way. Having a good quantity representation of some of the key pieces in the post-war sets, that's a really unique goal, certainly ambitious. But it's like you said, it's more of a journey than a race, right? And it's the excitement of going through and learning about and finding the one that makes the most sense. Maybe you're a centering guy. I like centered vintage cards, so I'm always really patient with that. Part of the fun is the search for whatever it is you're looking for, right? Is that process, the entire journey of, I'm going to look for this in a year I plan to have or find, hopefully, one, and it might take longer.
Quite honestly, I'm probably going to be looking for Tiffany cards and PSA 10.
Yeah.
And once I have, 5 to 10 PSA 10, 1987 Topps Tiffany, that'll be enough for me for that set. I feel like I'll have a good representation of 87 Topps, star players, highly graded.
I like the concept of having graded cards too. I'm not a registry collector, but it's a card I need, and it's like a PSA 9 or a BGS 9 or an 8.5 or whatever, and it's a card I need.
Yeah.
I won't think twice. I'll try to get it. Will I look for a 10 after that? Well, it depends on how rare a card is. I mean, I have a Forte quadruple from 99 Upper Deck Thomas, and it's numbered to 10. It's an 8. I don't expect to ever see another one of those. I'm totally fine with my BGS 8. Totally fine. I love it. I'm in love with it. So, depending on the card, grading, the quality of the grade doesn't matter to me. And then the other question is, will you be doing the traded set? Will the Maddox come in as an opportunity for you, as one of those cards you want to get?
Yeah, generally speaking, I do traded sets as separate sets. And so, I would collect the base set, get the representation that I deem appropriate for me, 5 to 10 cards, and then go to the traded set and, find cards there that also I deem appropriate. Quite frankly, so this is a goal. So you're asking, like, what is your goal? So this is definitely a goal. I want to get into base cards, get representation of as many sets as I can, but still do it meticulously over time to make sure that I'm getting good quality. I haven't quite answered, like, how exactly I'm going to do that yet. So that's why, like, in a lot of my videos, like, I focus on inserts cards because I'm much more clear as to what I like, what I want. You'll see a lot of my insert cards, especially low numbered like you. Like, I'm not necessarily, I don't need a PSA 10 all the time. I'm very happy getting a raw card, just like this Maddox here. It's got some rough edges, not terrible, but there's some, there's a little bit of rough edges. It's more clear on the back. But I'm totally happy with this card. I still might get this card graded, and even if it comes back as PSA 7, I love this card. It's great. It's fantastic. It's awesome. Because at the end of the day, I collect cards and not grades, I guess. That's what I like the best. But anyway, coming back to the original question, I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to go after those base cards. Do I want them graded raw? Will PSA 9 suffice? I'm trying to figure that out. But that goal is there to focus more on base cards. I want that representation. I know we've been talking mostly about the 1990s today, but I really like the whole history of cards, and I want more of that representation in my collection.
I like that. I think it's cool. Really like that a lot. It's unique. Do you keep a most wanted checklist, or is your buying behavior more serendipitous?
So what I used to do was, like, when I would see through wherever, maybe someone's blog or on eBay, if I would come across not necessarily a card, but of a set that I really liked, I would, and once again, a lot of these are from the 1990s. Like, I would keep track and say, okay, I want to get some cards from this set, and not really worry about the player. The player itself, depending when I'm looking, there might two players I like equally, but if one's a better deal at that moment in time, and I'm totally happy with that player, I would just go after that player. So for me, I kept track of which sets that am I after. But then after a while, even keeping track of the sets, like there's just so many sets, there's so many different cards, and so I sort of gotten away from formally writing down like every set that I'm after. I can, for the most part, I can keep track, in my mind when I see them. But what I have been writing down more are rookie cards that I'm after. When I see just a great rookie card, and once again, I talked about this in my video a little bit. Different people define rookies different ways, and I don't get too much caught up into that. But especially for the older cards, I think there was more unanimity as to what exactly was a rookie, or what was the rookie card most people were after. So I'll keep track of the rookie cards that I'm after, and I've got a pretty long list of that. As far as inserts, once again, it's more I'm keeping a mental track of the sets that I want as opposed to specific cards.
I like that. That's cool. And it's nice to kind of see what other people are writing about to get us interested in maybe some new stuff we hadn't heard about previously, and maybe it fits in our collection somewhere.
Yeah, I know. Once again, Radicards. I mean, the stuff that your content, I've learned like so much about. Even the 90s. Like, I was heavily collecting in the 90s, but once again, I was really isolated where I was. I grew up in a really small town. There was no card shop. I was getting all of my cards from like a local convenience store.
Mm-hmm.
There really wasn't a huge amount of selection. So a lot of those cards, when they first came out, I wasn't aware of them. And then as the 90s wore on, I got busy with other stuff. A lot of these cards from the 90s, when they first came out, I just wasn't aware of them. And now that I'm back in the hobby, like, I'm learning about so many sets that I wasn't aware of, and a lot of that is through Radicards, and that's why I'm just such a huge fan of your stuff.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. It's been my pleasure to produce the content, and I just love writing about sports cards so much. So I really like to know when people are reading it and getting a lot out of it. Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
Brian, thank you for sitting down with me for this interview. I have one final question. Do you have any final thoughts?
I would say one final thought would be, like, I see on blogs or just different locations, people talking about, is the state of the hobby good right now? I think like a lot of people, like, I'm a little bit frustrated that, for each of the sports, there's really only one major license manufactured. But I would say, and that's a little frustrating, but I would say, people are wondering, does the hobby have a future? And for me, I always feel like as long as sports in general are popular, I think cards will be popular. And I have no doubt that sports are always going to be popular here in the United States. People love sports. And because of that, like, I feel good that the hobby itself will survive. It'll keep changing. It'll keep adapting. But I think in the long run, it's gonna exist. It's gonna be there. My larger point is that I just think the hobby, it'll be there, and so, like, I'm pretty optimistic about things. I think that from what I've seen, especially over the last couple of years, there's a lot of enthusiasm. Like, you can find message boards and stuff. It's there, and so it might look different than how it used to be, but I think the hobby as a whole, will be fine going forward.
Awesome. I like that. There's a lot to cover there in that question, but I think you're right. As long as we have sports, there's hope. that the hobby's going
Right.
to continue. So thanks again, Brian Hayes, for sitting down with me and enjoying this dialogue with me. You can reach Brian Hayes on his website, his YouTube account, and his Twitter account. All links below, so check him out. And thank you again, Brian, for sitting down with me. Thank you for watching another episode of Radicards TV on Radicards.com. And until next time, enjoy collecting. If you like this video, please subscribe. Enjoy collecting. Thank you.